over, trying to get a runner over to third. And, sometimes you just happen to get onto the ball and get one out of there.
Paven, we'd heard that some teams worked you out in the outfield a little bit. With Jonathan bringing up Paul Goldschmidt in Arizona, did the Diamondbacks talk to you at all about possibly trying the outfield either this summer or in an instructional league? Have they given you much idea what they might do with you defensively?
Really haven't talked to him too much. I know in the pre-draft stuff they asked if I felt comfortable out there, and I told them I did. I played half the games my freshman year out there and played every Sunday when Adam Hazley pitched, so I definitely feel like I have the versatility to do that.
Paven, obviously, Virginia is a storied program that had a lot of professional talent, a lot of big league talent. How often have you been able to pick the brains of guys like Ryan Zimmerman, who, in some ways similar, hit really well? You actually showed more power in college than he did because of the ballpark, as Tim mentioned. But how often having those alumni come around and sort of talk to you guys about what the pro game is like, has that prepared you at all for what comes next for you?
Yeah, I think when they come back, they really just talk about the lifestyle, not really about how their individual statistics or anything. I know they're all like super humble guys, and they're just trying to help prepare us for more the lifestyle rather than how to perform at the next level.
Well, Paven, congratulations on being the number 7 pick in the draft. Congratulations on your career at Virginia and your future with the D-backs, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Paven Smith. The Diamondbacks taking him number 7 overall on day 1, just ahead of Adam Hazley, his teammate, which is kind of cool to see those guys go back-to-back. And I have to compliment you guys because I think you had them only separated by 1 in your rankings, so well done.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there's still a lot of talent to be taken here on day 2 of the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. A lot of players that we thought could go on day 1 are still available. Let's take a look at the top 10 players that are there. Blaine Enlow is number 29, according to you guys, the right-handed pitcher out of the high school ranks in Louisiana. Then Nick Allen, the highest-rated position player, the slick shortstop from Southern California. Tanner Burns, a right-hander out of Alabama, as is Jacob Heatherly, the lefty from Alabama. Evan Skoog, the highest-ranked college player, the catcher from TCU. And then Alex Scherf, Tristan Beck, Garrett Mitchell, Daniel Cabrera, and Jacob Pearson. I'm going to start with you, Jonathan. And you know where I'm going because you've been a huge Nick Allen fan since we started talking about this draft maybe a year ago. I don't know. But Nick Allen did not go on day 1. There was talk that maybe he would go late in the first round. He's still there on day 2, and he brings all that defense.
Yeah, he does. He can flat out play shortstop. Yeah, we know he's a little guy, and people aren't used to that. But I think he's going to swing the bat enough. He's got some strength. He's never going to be a power guy. I keep saying he's not going to be a Jose Altuve and power is going to start showing up. But he's going to hit enough, and he has a highlight reel at shortstop. He's got a plus arm. This isn't a all effort, everything I have to get the ball across the diamond. He can flat out throw. He's got great hands. He's got good range. He's a plus runner. I think he's going to go sometime during round 3, which is what happened a year ago. We had 5 guys, in the top, 5 high school guys in the top 10 that were still available. 3 of them went in the 3rd round, and all 3 of those guys signed. So if you don't see these high school guys go early, and then they don't go on day 2, then those are the guys who are probably going on to college. But I expect that Nick Allen is going to be one who will probably sign.
And along with that, that means that there's discussions going on, right? Because obviously these are guys who are expecting a certain amount of a bonus, and we're out of that range right now. So there's a lot of phone calls going on between team and player.
Oh, definitely. And the thing is, for a lot of the players in the first round, the slots are often higher than what the bonus is going to be, so they've saved money. But as soon as, even probably as the draft was going on, once teams made their 2nd pick and were done for the day, or their 3rd, 4th pick, whatever it was, they're texting agents, calling people, trying to figure out, okay, what's the price tag? Why is your guy still on the board? What's he looking for? It wasn't, I don't think, any surprise. I think on that list, 5 of the 10 guys were high school pitchers.
8. Oh, pitchers, yeah. Sorry. 8 high school guys total. 5 of the 10 guys were high school pitchers. And, it's like I said before, the industry worries about the injury risk with high school pitchers. The industry, and rightfully so, there's a big difference a lot of times with pitchers with what they are now and what they can become. And so you get a little difference. Well, this is what we think you're worth. Well, this is what I think I'm worth. And you have to kind of hash that out. I think we'll see a number of these guys, like Jonathan said, either get picked in round 3, maybe round 11 if a team goes into the 3rd day and still has some money left and tries to do some things. But Blaine Enlow, who's on top of that list,
high school right-hander, one of the best curveballs in the draft, maybe the best curveball in the draft, depending on who you talk to. His velocity was stronger last summer. 88, 92 for a lot of the spring. He was a lot more, 91, 94 last year. I think he's another guy that we could see go here early on day 3. And Jonathan's right. If you see the guys go today, they're probably going to sign, and probably not going to sign for slot. If you see him slide, then we probably won't see him. Although last year, only 2 players in the first 10 rounds didn't sign. So for the most part, anybody who's getting picked today, whether it's round 3, round 7, round 10, is probably going to turn pro.
Yeah, a big reason for that is because of the rules. We talked about the draft pool, but if you don't sign a guy, that pick value disappears from your pool, and you don't have that money to use to sign other players. So drafting a player anywhere in the top 10 rounds and you don't sign him can adversely impact your ability to sign the other guys you've taken in the top 10 rounds.
I'm glad you got that point in, that only 2 players last year in the top 10 rounds didn't sign after last night during round 1. That was a major theme for you guys on the network, so glad you got that in. I want to check back in with you again, Duke, and you like a player not on that list we just saw, but how about Matt Tabor out of Massachusetts, the prep ranks?
Yeah, a high school pitcher, just off of that list there. But now here's a guy that had a little growth spurt going into his senior year. You see that a lot of times with kids, and so he wasn't really on a lot of people's radar until this year. And you saw some fastball velocity. You saw that go up to 92, 93, even touched 96. He's got a really good feel for changeup, needs work, I think, on the breaking ball. I guess he didn't, at times, didn't pitch well in front of when scouting directors came in or cross-checkers came in. He's fallen a little bit, but you see his delivery. It's real nice, smooth delivery. He's an Elon commit, so he does have college there as a background. But I think he's an interesting guy. He's got the quick arm, good, really athletic, and a kid that, you usually, when you draft out of that area, out of Massachusetts, there is some risk there, but it is some high reward many times as well.
Thank you, Duke. We have about 5 minutes to go until we're going to get started on round 3. The Minnesota Twins holding the 76th overall pick, and they'll kick things off here for round 3. Let's take a look at the full schedule here on day number 2. We're going rounds 3 through 10. It'll be 1 minute between selections, so once we get going, it's got to move quickly as we get through 8 rounds of this draft, and then there will be a little bit of a break after round 5 before round 6. We'll break for 10 minutes. We will keep you entertained through much of that break as you guys try to get some food as well, as it's a long day for Jim and Jonathan here in the MLB.com studios. So it's a full day we have coming up fairly shortly here. And one thing we always like to get out there is a message to the scouts, right? to get that information in. The vast amount of knowledge that you guys have about all these players does reach an end eventually, and you like to get some help.
Yeah, we do. And we usually get a lot of help, and I know we're all appreciative of the help we do get from scouts. But as we get into later rounds especially, there's going to be some college seniors drafted. We try to stay on top of those as much as we can, but there are often players we may not know something about. We will text from here looking for information, but if teams, I think just about every team probably has our cell numbers because we text and call them all the time. Any team wants to reach out to us, you're taking a college senior, you think, or a more obscure player that might not be on our radar, we are very happy to get the quick scouting reports via text so we can appear more knowledgeable. But really, what it is about, guys, I think, is to give these guys their little place in the sun. It's like, and we'll effort here on our end too, but if a player gets drafted, not just say, oh, okay, we don't know much about this guy. We'd like to be able to tell fans what he's all about and make the player feel like he's a worthwhile pick too.
You mentioned the college seniors, which brings up a good point. This is something that in the past CBA and going forward in the current CBA we've seen more and more of, and it makes a lot of sense for teams to take those college seniors because it helps with the overall bonus pool and getting things done.
Right, you can take your money and use it however you want. So if, say there's a team that is going to draft a Nick Allen or a Blaine Enlow, it's going to be for above pick value. You're going to need to save money later on, especially if you didn't do it in the first round. So that's where you're going to see some of these money-saving college senior picks who wouldn't necessarily be sixth rounders if you're just lining up a board on straight talent. They're obviously trying to find guys who will sign at a bargain price, who have some ability and will help the organization. These aren't throwaway picks by any stretch of the imagination, but that's why we want to give these players their due. They've worked hard to get drafted, and we will be the first to admit that we're not familiar with the guy, and we'll go back and talk up that player once we get information in.
Yeah, we will absolutely do that. And I wanted to get one more thought from Jim Duquette, who's been in that world of making these picks and doing these drafts. Jim, you get to day 2 of the draft, and obviously the adrenaline continues. What is the mood like right now in all these war rooms around Major League Baseball?
Well, because it's changed a little bit, you just don't get through as many picks through that first day. So that second round, it becomes real important. There's a lot of major leaguers still there on the board to grab. You're starting to fill out some teams as well. Obviously, you want to be competitive with some of those short season clubs. But to me, this day here, still there's a lot of excitement for it, and guys fighting for their players. You'll get calls from the area scout many times saying that, hey, I really believe in this guy. I have a gut feel in this guy, and they'll pick up the phone and call their supervisors, the regional cross-checkers, to try to get that last-minute push to see if the team can draft him.
Yeah, you mentioned filling out the rosters on day 3, a lot of that. And that's when we see a lot of the family ties type picks go and legacy picks. But we actually saw some of those picks going as far as bloodlines on day 1 of this draft. Some interesting picks went. You talk about Gavin Sheets, son of Larry Sheets. Jacob Gonzalez, son of Luis Gonzalez, the former D-back star. He went 58 to the Giants. Sheets went 49 to the White Sox. Joe Dunand, the Alex Rodriguez's nephew, went number 51. Dalton Varsho, Gary Varsho's son, longtime scout of the Pirates. And Dalton, because Gary, obviously a player with the Phillies, was teammates with Darren Dalton, so he went and named his son after that. So some cool picks there, and we're going to see more of those as we go along.
We will. I mean, that's like you said, it's more of a day 3 thing, I think. I mean, there are some talented guys, and you mentioned 4 who went first day, but day 3 seems to really be that day with a lot of the legacy picks.
How about those guys? Does any of those stand out to you? As obviously they were taken because of their talents right now, though some of them went a little higher than we thought.
A little bit. I mean, I had heard that Luis Gonzalez's son, might land in the second round because of the power potential. I think Dalton Varsho is probably the most interesting of that group. I mean, Gavin Sheets is a good college performer, but Varsho has a chance to catch, and I think that combination. And there were so few college catchers or any catchers, and that's why he kind of moved up a little bit.
We mentioned the college seniors and those guys that were ranked highly that are still available. If you take one of those, you probably end up taking some college seniors to help out the cause of signing them along the way. If those guys at the top of that list that we saw are going to go, Enlow and Allen, are they going to go early, or could they end up going around 4 or 5, or should we expect to see them pretty soon?
I think they'll go early for a couple reasons. One, the teams picking at the top of the 3rd round are going to have more money than most teams. So relatively speaking, they have more money to spend. 2, if teams have all made calls to try to figure out who's signable, and if you have a signable guy, you're going to want to grab him now rather than trying to wait another round or 2 before somebody swoops in on him. So I do think we'll sit here and nod our heads a lot and say, okay, he's going to sign, he's going to sign, he's going to sign. I think we'll see a lot of the bigger name guys who are still on the board go in the first 10 or 15 picks of the 3rd round if they're going to be signable.
Any more? Last thought heading into day 2.
No, I think that's it. It'll be interesting to see when those guys go off the board. And there's still a lot of talent. We didn't even touch on the college guys on that list. Guys like Evan Skoug and Tristan Beck, who's an injury guy. That's an interesting case that we didn't get to. But there's plenty of talent still to be had in day 2.
All right. Well, we have had a good time getting you ready for day number 2. Settle in. Get ready. Round number 3 is about ready to begin. The Minnesota Twins have the number 1 pick. We're getting ready to head out to Roy Krasik, the Senior Director of Baseball Operations, to take it away with day 2 of the 2017 Major League Baseball Draft. We're going to get to Roy in just a second. When you look at all these guys that went on day 1, you talked about your favorite team, that what they did, but was there a moment that stood out to you from the coverage of day number 1?
I think it might have just been the number 1 pick. I mean, because heading up to that, you probably did too. I don't know how much you were checking in front of the desk. John Manuel and I from Baseball America were in Studio 21, so we had a little bit more freedom. We weren't on camera. And I think we found out about 3 minutes before the pick was made that it was going to be Royce Lewis. I think that was an interesting part to me because it's almost a tired analogy, but it's like Christmas or Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Kudos again. Where you have all these you have all these presents and they're under the tree and you want to see who's getting what and we didn't really know. It's 7 o'clock if it was going to be Royce Lewis or Brendan McKay and how the draft might unfold. So that to me was kind of the most interesting part of the draft.
We saw 4 players were there at the network studios, 4 high school guys, and they all went on day 1 in that first round. That's always cool.
It's great, and then it's a broken record for me where I'm constantly, pounding the table saying more guys need to come to the draft. I was talking to Joe Adele for a minute or two, and he was saying what an awesome experience it is. So I told him, and Joe, if you're listening to day 2, we're going to put you to work. You got to call all the underclassmen that will be in next year's class and tell them how great it is, and that's how you recruit more players. Because to a man, all 4 of them had a fantastic experience. Even Bubba Thompson, who had to wait around a little bit longer, but I think he knew he was going to go somewhere in the 20s, so it wasn't so bad. For them and their families, it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing, and it adds so much energy to the room to see the emotional response. It's great seeing the cameras of kids in their houses. But having that right there in the studio just, to me, makes the broadcast that much better.
All right, we are ready to go. Roy Krasik, we introduced him, Senior Director of Baseball Operations. Let's head out to him. The Minnesota Twins have the first pick in the 3rd round of the 2017 Major League Baseball Draft. They are on the clock. We'll see who they go. They went with Royce Lewis, number 1 overall. Who will they take to kick off day number 2? Here you go.
Minnesota Twins.
Twins select ID 8857, Enlo Blaine. He's a right-handed pitcher from St. Amant High School, hometown Sorrento, Louisiana.
Minnesota selects Blaine Enloe, a right-handed pitcher, St. Amant High School in St. Amant, Louisiana.
Well, that didn't take very long. Blaine Enloe, who we just talked about, the highest rated player according to you guys on Pipeline, going into day 2, and he goes to the Twins with the very first pick.
Yeah, so how about that? I guess Twins were looking at our list. Like I said, I really like this guy. I think there's that little bit of a bias against high school right-handers. I thought this guy could have been a late first or sandwich or early second-round pick. Has one of the best curveballs around. It's got power. It's got shape. We've probably seen it on this video here. There's a nice curveball right there. More velocity last summer, which isn't necessarily atypical because it's warmer in the summer and guys generally throw a little bit harder. I don't think he's necessarily here if he didn't sit around 88, 92 miles an hour for most of the spring.
All right, the Cincinnati Reds are up next.
Select 547, Heatherly Jacob. He's a left-handed pitcher, Coleman High School, Coleman, Alabama.
Cincinnati selects Jacob Heatherly, a left-handed pitcher, Coleman High School in Alabama.
And another player off the best available list, Jacob Heatherly, a guy that, Jonathan, we got to see down at the National High School Invitational, and here he goes early on to the Reds day 2.
Yeah, and he didn't throw that well
right.
At the NHSI, and a lot of people were kind of looking at him as maybe this year's version of Braxton Garrett, who we saw compete really well at the NHSI and keep pitching well. Heatherly's stuff kind of backed up a little bit over the course of the spring, and that's kind of why he slid a little bit. But again, going here in the 3rd round, that commitment to Alabama, I don't think is as big of a concern.
This is a great guy for development guys to get. He needs a little bit of smoothing out in the delivery. You see some good breaking curveballs and then some sweepers that need to be tightened up a little bit. Good fastball. To me, he's an interesting pick there.
And the Padres are next.
House Mason, a center fielder from White House High School, White House, Texas.
San Diego selects Mason House, a center fielder, White House High School in White House, Texas.
All right, Mason House is the next pick. He goes to the Padres. They had 3 picks on day 1, and they really mixed it up with those picks. They go with House here to start day 2.
He was one of the guys I was really curious where he was going to go in the draft. He's a classic pop-up guy. He's from East Texas. Nobody really saw him on the showcase circuit last summer. And you're talking about a guy who's 6'2", 190, interesting left-handed swing, projectable frame, a lot of power potential here, runs pretty well too. And, we talked about this with Austin Beck in the 1st round. There just wasn't history of seeing this guy hit with wood bats, so it's kind of a question, where's this guy going to fall? But he's really, really interesting. There were teams on him. I thought this might be around the range he was going, but it was just hard. The East Texas competition wasn't the best in the world, so you were really kind of going, this was really a pure scouting pick because you're not seeing results on the showcase circuit. You're having to say, okay, we believe in the tools, we believe this kid's going to hit. But it was interesting because there was a time probably around April or so, where everybody was running. Everybody had to go see Mason House. Like, this guy wasn't on their fall list coming into the year, and you had to go see Mason House and figure him out.
It's like the old days before they had the showcase circuits and all of that stuff. You actually had to get out to all those high schools. Here's the Rays in round
Tampa Bay
3.
selects draft ID 4208, Taylor Walls, shortstop, Florida State University.
Tampa Bay selects Taylor Walls, a shortstop from Florida State.
Taylor Walls, the college shortstop. He's a switch hitter, and I've seen best shortstop at Florida State since Stephen Drew.
Well, certainly the best draft prospect at that position since then. It's not fair to compare him to Stephen Drew. Very different player. It's kind of an interesting combination of track record and then poor performances as a junior, at least in swinging the bat. Had a really good sophomore year, played well for Team USA over the summer, and just didn't hit that great for FSU this year. But he can play up the middle. Maybe he moves over to second, but I think he probably can play shortstop. A little bit of a super utility profile when all is said and done, but one of those middle infielder college performers that tend to do well. I think had he swung the bat a little bit better, he would have gone in day one.
Kyle Wright went number 5 to the Braves on day number 1. Maybe slid a little bit. A lot of people were talking about him being in the discussion for number 1. The Braves got him at number 5. Who do they take to start off day number 2?
The Braves select draft ID 3838, Tarnock Freddie, right-hand starter, Riverview High School, Brandon, Florida.
Atlanta selects Freddie Tarnock, a right-handed pitcher, Riverview High School in Brandon, Florida.
Freddie Tarnock taken as the pitcher. But here's another guy. We talk about the two-way players, and here's another guy that was a two-way star in high school.
He was, and he was really known as more as a shortstop. Began pitching more this spring, started hitting 96, 97 miles an hour, showing some feel for spitting a hard curveball. He's got a real projectable 6'4" frame. I'd heard a little bit of buzz. Somebody had mentioned his name to me. This is a guy who could get some interest earlier than maybe we'd been hearing, and obviously we did. The Braves took him here. Real interesting, classic projectable guy, but not only is he projectable, he's already throwing 96, 97 miles an hour at times, so he's, doesn't even if he adds more velocity, then you could really have something. But really interesting guy who really intrigued scouts. I think he threw well at the end of the year. I believe he was in the Florida high school All-Star game, and that helped him as well.
You say projectable for a guy that throws that hard. Not necessarily he's going to throw that much harder, right? But everything else can come also.
Well, I did mean he's kind of a slender. He's 6'4" and kind of slender, so I think he can get stronger. And so that's what's kind of really intriguing. He's already touching 97. If he gets stronger, are we talking triple digits?
Yeah, who knows? Here's the A's up next.
2455, Nick Allen, a shortstop from Francis Parker High School.
Oakland selects Nick Allen, a shortstop, Francis Parker High School in San Diego, California.
Here you go, Jonathan. Your guy, Nick Allen, goes to the A's.
My guy, yeah, a lot of reputation. But, I've talked a lot about him. Duke, I know you like him a lot, too, can really play the position. I think he's going to hit enough to be an everyday shortstop. What do you think, Duke?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, Jonathan. He can really swing the bat, gap to gap. I like the way he runs. Not a real big kid. What is he, about 5'8"? But, man, he's got a heck of an arm. He's a highlight reel. You talked about him pregame. He makes the stellar play. You see him at the PG All-American game there, making some tremendous plays. Got a plus arm strength. So, yeah, a lot to like with him.
Yeah, and that play he made at the perfect game All-American, it's kind of like, people knew what he could do, but talk about putting yourself on the map.
Well, and that was the highlight reel play, and he does that all the time, but he makes the routine plays in the hole, up the middle, coming in, different arm angles, you name it. He can flat out play shortstop. I mean, he's the best defender in the draft class at any position for me.
And at this spot, you would think that the A's have the plans, that they're going to have the money and able to sign him as well. We talked to Pavin Smith in the preview show. That was cool. And now we're going to find out who one of his new teammates will be with the D-backs.
5270, Tabor Matt, right-handed starter from Milton Academy, Milton, Massachusetts. We would also like to announce that our competitive balance selection, Dalton Varsho, is the son of Gary Varsho, former major leaguer and current Pirates professional scout.
There you go. We heard
Arizona
about Dalton Varsho. We talked about him. Here you go, Duke. Matt Tabor.
Right-handed pitcher from Milton Academy in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I love this kid. I mean, we talked about him in our pre-draft show. You know, he came on a little bit late in terms of his growth spurt, and you saw velocity there as well. He's got really good arm, quick arm action, shows the makings of a really good breaking ball. His delivery's pretty clean, and the changeups, he's got a makings of a third pitch there too.
Yeah, he was a guy who was even making some noise, day one, because the weather got warm, people were running in, and unfortunately decision makers came in, and he did not throw his best, and you don't get that many chances to see a kid in the Northeast, but fresh arm, because of the cold weather, and I think he's just trying to figure out his body now. He grew like 2-3 inches, I think it was, from the fall to the spring, so there's a lot more in the tank, I think, for Matt Tabor.
All right, so Matt Tabor goes to the D-backs here in round number 3. Coming up next will be the Philadelphia Phillies. They went with Adam Hazley with the 8th overall pick on day 1, then Spencer Howard with the 45th. Who will they take here?
Select, redraft, 5-1-3-5. Seabold, Connor Seabold, a right-hand pitcher from Cal State Fullerton, hometown Newport Beach, California.
Philadelphia selects Connor Seabold, a right-handed pitcher from Cal State Fullerton.
Connor Seabold, the guy known more for the control command than the power until this year, right? The velocity came as well this spring.
Yeah, and that's what made him a much more interesting prospect. And Fullerton has a long reputation of developing these guys who really command the zone. Thomas Eshelman is a guy who came up in headlines because he was part of a big trade. But Seabold's stuff now might be a little bit better than Eshelman's was. Everything ticked up a little bit. A fastball velocity up to 94, sat 92 to 94. He was like 88 to 90 before that. The rest of the stuff is just okay. The changeup is average. The breaking ball is a little bit fringy, but we put a 65 on his control grade. I mean, he might have the best command and control of any starting pitcher in this draft class. I mean, he just really knows how to put the ball where he wants to.
The Brewers are a franchise that has added so much talent over the last few years, especially up the middle, and you look at what they did on day 1. Stayed there again. Keston Hiura, the young second baseman, they took him in the first round. Here's their next pick.
Player ID, redraft 7854, Harrison, KJ, a catcher from Oregon State University.
Milwaukee selects KJ Harrison, a catcher from Oregon State University.
KJ Harrison, catcher, also played first base at Oregon State. Caught a little bit this spring, right? More of a first baseman until this spring. And Oregon State, obviously, #1 team in the country heading into that College World Series.
Well, I think it's interesting that they announced him as a catcher because he is not caught very much at all. And one of the things that scouts struggled with was trying to decide whether they thought he could catch. They saw it earlier in his college career a little bit more, but they hadn't really gotten to see it much, and you have to make sure that he wants to catch. Now, clearly, they got some indication, but he can hit. He hit for power his first 2 years at Oregon State. This year, he kind of changed his approach and was hitting more for average, got pitched around a lot, and didn't sell out for power as a result of that. So I think there's a good all-around hitter in there. If you think he can catch, then that adds to his value.
It's interesting because as a freshman, I think the first half of his freshman year, Jonathan, we would have thought he would have been a top 10 pick this year. J.J. Schwartz, another catcher at Florida, same thing, and regressed a little bit offensively or just got more settled in rather than took a step forward. But if he can catch, that could be a really nice pick for the Brewers.
Here's the Angels.
5-1-3-9, Pearson Jacob, a center fielder from West Monroe High School.
The Angels select Jacob Pearson, a center fielder, West Monroe High School in West Monroe, Louisiana.
Jacob Pearson committed to LSU, and if he went to LSU, he'd actually be eligible as a sophomore, but here he goes in round number 3.
Yeah, really one of the better high school bats available still at this point. A guy we thought maybe could have gone a round higher. I was hearing possible second-round pick. Again, we're seeing a lot of the top high school players going fairly early here on day 2. It's a really nice left-handed swing. He's got bat speed. He's performed against quality pitching on the showcase circuit. Gatorade Player of the Year in Louisiana this year. He runs well, too, and he's got some power potential. This is a potential 2020 player. The weakness in his game is his throwing arm. He had labrum surgery as a sophomore in high school, so he doesn't throw real well. You hope he can stick in center. If he can, it's going to have to be left field. Regardless of where he plays, though, you're getting a really intriguing offensive player here who could hit for power and have some speed.
Yeah, a lot of those top players available we're seeing coming off the board here in the third round. That was the Angels. The Colorado Rockies are up next. They didn't have a first-round pick, but they did have 2 picks on day 1. Here's their third.
The Rockies select redraft 7581 Gaddis William, right-handed starter, Furman University, Greenville, South Carolina.
Colorado selects Will Gaddis, a right-handed pitcher from Furman University.
Will Gaddis, a guy that shined in the Southern Conference, pitcher of the year last spring. He was also great on the Cape last summer.
He was, and I think this is a really nice pick for the Rockies. This is a guy who could have been a second-round pick, I thought, coming into the year. He's one of the best. You hear with a lot of these pitchers, oh, he might have to be a reliever. Nobody really says that about Will Gaddis. Now, his stuff backed up a little bit this year. On the Cape, he was up to 96 with really nasty sink. This spring has been more 88, 92, topping out 94 with a little less sink. Changeup's really good. It's been plus in the past, more average this spring. Curveball and cutter have gone kind of from solid to average. This stuff just ticked down maybe a half grade this spring. If it doesn't, the Rockies aren't getting him here in the third round. Scouts I talked to really like him. He really competes, repeats his delivery, throws a lot of strikes. He's kind of the perfect pitcher for Coors Field. He's a guy who keeps the ball down with heavy, heavy sink. That's the type of arm you want there. So I think this, I hadn't really thought about where he might fit best, but I think the Rockies, if I had put some thought into that, the Rockies are a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, and the Colorado Rockies have gotten it seemingly in the last few years better and better at getting those pitchers that fit for them. We're seeing it at the major league level. Here's the next pick.
White Sox select draft ID 9675 Gonzalez Luis. We would like him listed as a center fielder from the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Chicago White Sox select Luis Gonzalez, a center fielder, University of New Mexico.
Another two-way player, and funny, Luis Gonzalez, he's not the son of Luis Gonzalez. We saw Jacob Gonzalez go on day 1, who was the son of Luis Gonzalez. Not confusing at all.
No, not at all. This one is the outfielder from the University of New Mexico. Probably the highest pick that they've had, I think, since DJ Peterson went in the first round. I think he has a chance to play center field. He's not a burner, but he plays the game with a lot of intensity and runs well enough. He's got a good enough arm. Some bat to ball skills. They're not a ton of power. A little bit of pull pop probably, and it might come a little bit more. But I think he's more of a top of the order catalyst kind of guy. I think it should work out for well if he's a center fielder, if he's a fourth outfielder when all is said and done. I think there are some very marketable skills there.
And the White Sox, an organization that's gotten so much better over the last year or so, through a lot of trades and now trying to add on to that as well with the draft. Jonathan, love what the Pirates did on day 1. How do they start day 2?
Pirates select draft ID 5281 Dylan Busby, a third baseman from Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida.
Pittsburgh selects Dylan Busby, a third baseman from Florida State University.
All right, well, the left side of that Florida State infield has been taken care of here in round number 3. Dylan Busby going here.
It's a power college bat. Kind of more in line with what the Pirates did last year, in terms of the top of the draft. But he's hit for power the last 2 years. He hit well in the Cape. So a track record of success for really being able to drive the ball, which is what you want from an infield corner.
Hernia surgery in the fall, right? He's bounced back from that as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Duke.
Yeah, power. Well, yeah, he had a little bit of a slow start because of that hernia, Tim. I think, and I think because of the power, as Jonathan talked about, you heard a lot about him up at the Cape, and again, he had home run power again this year. It looks like he could stick over there at third base. He's got good enough hands and good enough arm to be able to play the position over there.
All right, thank you, Duke. So that's it for the Pirates here with their third-round pick as they get going. Already their 5th player here in the draft, Shane Baz, Steve Jennings, Calvin Mitchell, Connor Usselton, and now Busby. And let's go to the Marlins here, their first pick of day 2.
Marlins select redraft 1845 Mahan Riley, a second baseman from the University of Kentucky.
Miami selects Riley Mahan, a second baseman from the University of Kentucky.
Riley Mahan, the second baseman. You don't see a ton of college second basemen going in the draft, and he's maybe not great there, but a guy with a bat.
No, he is. College performer. Kentucky had one of the deepest lineups in college baseball this spring. Wound up going to a super regional where they lost to Louisville, which is one of the better teams in the country. Nice bounce back year for Mahan. He played shortstop last year, and it was really a struggle there. Made a bunch of errors, really looked out of place. This year moved to second. It seemed like it made him more comfortable at the plate. Good lefty swing, uses the whole field. The question is, with a lot of these guys, how much power is he going to have in pro ball with wood bats? But he is a good hitter. Maybe needs to tighten the strike zone up a little bit. I think the position is probably still a question. He's better at second. He's got kind of an erratic arm, and that can get away from him at times. Hands are okay. Might be more of a corner outfielder, although obviously if that's the case, then it puts more pressure on his bat. So I think you send him out as a second baseman, but he may wind up in the outfield.
Is the arm good enough for the outfield spots?
Yeah, he has arm strength. It's just erratic in terms of accuracy.
All right, the Kansas City Royals are up next. Let's see who they take.
Kansas City Royals select redraft 9266 Tillo Daniel, left-handed pitcher, Iowa Western Community College, Council Bluffs, Iowa.
We submit the pick, Kansas City. Kansas City selects Daniel Tillo, a left-handed pitcher, Iowa Western Community College.
Good athlete, Daniel Tillo, 6'5" left-hander, was actually Mr. Basketball in Iowa back in 2015.
I really like this guy. He has not pitched a whole lot. He was actually teammate with Riley Mahan at Kentucky last year. Only pitched 7 innings, transferred to Iowa Western, a JUCO power. Came out firing 92, 95, touching 97, showing a hard slider, athletic, big lefty. I thought he had a chance to go early second round. But because he hasn't pitched a whole lot, didn't pitch a whole lot in Iowa high schools, kind of came down with a dead arm period and sat around 88, 90 late. I don't think it's necessarily a serious injury by any means, but the reduced velocity wound up driving him down a little bit. This could be a really nice pick for Kansas City if he bounces back.
Love the athleticism. Potential for 2+ pitches, fastball, slider, and because of that athleticism, as you talked about, Jim, the basketball, you're the guy that probably hasn't pitched a whole lot there. There's a good chance that those pitches are going to get better. He's got that good downward plane too, so this is a pretty athletic pick.
All right, thank you. So the Royals take Daniel Tillo here in round number 3. The Houston Astros are up next. Houston, plenty of picks on day 1. This is their 5th pick already in the draft.
The Houston Astros select draft ID 7988, Ivy Tyler, right-handed pitcher from Grayson County College.
Houston selects Tyler Ivy, a right-handed pitcher from Grayson County College.
All right, Tyler Ivy heads to the Houston Astros. Jim, what do we got on him?
It's not too surprising to see the Astros take a junior college player here because they've gone that route a lot with guys like Ramon Laureano is a guy who jumps out immediately when I think of that. Tyler Ivy began his college career at Texas A&M. He's committed to Oklahoma State if he goes to college next year, but going in the 3rd round, I'm going to guess that he probably signs. Best junior college pitcher, best junior college prospect in the state of Texas this year. Sits 90-92 a lot, touches 95, throws a lot of strikes. His changeup is actually better than his breaking stuff. Arm action isn't the smoothest. I mean, you're going to hear that a lot. I think it's easy to say a lot of these guys, the arm action is not the smoothest. He might be a reliever. You hear that about Ivy. We're going to hear it, probably say that a few more times today. But interesting arm. If I don't think there's any chance he doesn't sign because he's going here in the 3rd round. If he'd gone to Oklahoma State and had a good year in the Big 12 next year, we might have been talking about him even a round higher.
And you talk about relievers versus starters, and we've seen in Major League Baseball relievers more and more of a role. The Yankees are up next.
The New York Yankees select redraft 3803 Stephen Trevor, right-handed pitcher, University of Arkansas, Fayetteville.
The New York Yankees select Trevor Stephan, a right-handed pitcher, University of Arkansas, Fayetteville.
Trevor Stephan actually was drafted in 2015 in the 12th round out of junior college. Instead, went to Arkansas, and now he's moved on up.
Yeah, there were some guys who liked him last year at Hill Junior College. I had him on the secret charts last year. We just didn't hear his name, obviously, on day 2. But he's got one of the best fastball packages in this draft. He sits 90-95. He touches 97. He throws across his body, which creates some run that's difficult, especially for right-handers to pick up. And commands, even though it's that crossfire delivery, he really commands the fastball well to both sides of the plate. So the fastball is really, really good. What helped him toward the end of the year when he was one of the better pitchers in the SEC is the secondary pitches he struggled with, probably because of the crossfire delivery. It's hard to stay on top of him. But his slider was better. I think it has a chance to be at least an average slider. Maybe even a little bit better than that. Changeup, a little bit more iffy pitch, but he does throw a lot of strikes. So you could go two routes with him here. If the slider gets a little bit better and the changeup becomes a little bit more usable, he throws enough strikes to be a starter. If not, he could be a reliever who really pitches off his fastball and maybe throws a little bit harder.
All right, so that's the Yankees. The Mariners are up next.
The Mariners select draft ID redraft 1116, last name Mills, first name Wyatt, a right-hand pitcher from Gonzaga University, Spokane, Washington.
Seattle selects Wyatt Mills, a right-handed pitcher from Gonzaga University.
All right, the Mariners going with another arm here in the third round, one of the Zags.
Yeah, I'm efforting.
It's
this is the first
today.
time, that I am short on information here. So I will ask for some help from the West to find some information on Wyatt Mills.
Absolutely. Obviously, Gonzaga has become quite the basketball school, but every year we see a couple of guys from the baseball team as well end up here in the draft. Wyatt Mills, the latest of them, as he heads out to the Seattle Mariners. Seattle staying close to home, and you talk about that, a guy that maybe you guys haven't heard that much of, but he's the local guy for the team out in Seattle, the Mariners.
Well, he's a senior who's a reliever for Gonzaga, and trying to look up his numbers so we can at least get that out if we have time. He closed for Gonzaga with 12 saves and 58 strikeouts and 40 in a third innings.
Makes 2 points here. One, they took Sam Carlson second round. He's probably going to get a bunch of money. Two, had a scout just text 90-95 mile-an-hour side armor with a good slider.
All right, here's the St. Louis Cardinals, their first pick of this
809,
draft.
Hurst Scott, a center fielder from Cal State Fullerton.
St. Louis selects Scott Hurst, a center fielder from Cal State Fullerton.
They said Cal State Fullerton. Big year for him, 339, 11 homers heading into regional play. And the first pick of this draft for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, this is their first chance, and they go the college route. And Hurst really had some injury issues over his first couple of years at Fullerton after a really good high school career. He even played for the 18 and under national team when he was in high school. So this is the first year he was fully healthy and really was able to show what he could do. He runs well. He's a really good athlete, can play center field with a good arm. So there's some talent here. Not a lot of power to see how much the bat can come, but the speed and the defense certainly play.
So the Cardinals are on the board here on day 2 of the draft as they take Scott Hurst. The Detroit Tigers are coming up next with the next pick here on day number 3 as we take you through third round coverage of the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. You look back on day 1 for the Tigers. Alex Faedo was their first round pick at number 18 overall. Who will they take here?
The Detroit Tigers select draft ID 6043, Morgan Joey, catcher, University of Washington in Seattle, Washington.
Detroit selects Joey Morgan, a catcher from the University of Washington.
And a lot of time with catchers, you think, okay, we know they can hit, but can they catch? That's not the story with Joey Morgan. He's kind of the other way around, right? We know he can catch.
Right, he's the catch and throw guy where you're not sure how much he's going to hit. Now, there is some strength, so that should help. Really good story. I mean, he was originally going to go to Oregon, had his roster spot and scholarship taken away, so he was a walk-on at Washington. And then Austin Ray, who was a high draft pick not long ago, was hurt. So he ended up starting as a freshman for Washington, kind of got in there, and now, of course, he's the everyday guy in Washington and picked a really good time this year to have his best offensive season. So if there were some teams I thought may have been on him in day 1 if they believed the bat was enough for him to be an everyday guy, but the catch and throw skills mean at the very least he should be a capable backup.
And there you go, having a talented catcher, and there's never enough catchers to go around, it seems.
No, and we'll see when we get into the senior rounds, 6 through 10, we'll see a lot of those college seniors that are getting drafted as money savers are catchers who can receive well and throw, and you hope maybe they hit. But we'll probably see a lot of catchers drafted today.
Yep. All right, up next is the San Francisco Giants on day 2.
Giants select 4036, Seth Curry, a left-handed starter from Lone Peak High School in Highland, Utah.
San Francisco selects Seth Corey, a left-handed pitcher, Lone Peak High School in Highland, Utah.
Seth Corey is a BYU commit, 90 to 92 with the fastball, but that's not his best pitch, right?
No, it's not. His breaking ball is his best pitch, and he was kind of interesting. At the start of the spring, he came out and had a huge start, some extra ticks of velocity, so people came running in, and it was a little bit inconsistent. When he's at his best, we've gotten Matt Moore comps, but he's really raw. He's got a ways to go to reach that kind of comp. He doesn't get to his secondary stuff as much as you would like because he doesn't command his fastball that well. And fastball command is often something that needs to be taught at the next level. The Giants certainly have a reputation for developing young pitching and doing it successfully. He is a very good athlete, though. He played free safety for his football team in high school. So when you have that kind of athleticism, there are a lot of things in terms of repeating your delivery that I think can be taught once you get under pro instruction.
And the Giants have stuck with kind of the high upside guys. They went with Helio Ramos out of Puerto Rico in round 1, high school third baseman in round 2, and Jacob Gonzalez, and now another high schooler. Here's the Mets.
The Mets select redraft 5204, Brody Harris, right fielder, Stanford.
New York Mets select Harris Brody, a right fielder from Stanford.
Quinn Brody as well, the outfielder out of Stanford. Here's another kid. When he was in high school, he was a great two-way player. Then he goes to Stanford where he settled into the outfield.
Yeah, people were kind of excited to see what he was going to do this spring because he had a good showing in the Cape Cod League and became a little bit more of a guy who was like, well, here's a college performer, played well in the Cape with wood in his hands, and did not come out and play as consistently well as a junior as might have hoped. Otherwise, we probably would have heard him go on day one. But he does a little bit of everything pretty well. He can barrel up the baseball. His approach has gotten better. His walk rate improved this year. That's one thing where he really improved. He's just kind of fringy speed and fringy arm, so he's probably a left fielder. So the question is, will the bat play enough? I think he's shown enough glimpses where he could be an average hitter with average power. And if that happens, then he could fit that left field profile pretty well.
All right, so the Mets go with Quinn Brody here in round 3. Here's the Baltimore Orioles.
The Orioles select redraft 3587, Michael Baumann, a right-handed starter out of Jacksonville University in Florida.
Baltimore selects Michael Baumann, a right-handed pitcher from Jacksonville.
Michael Baumann from Jacksonville University, a 4-pitch mix. Started in college, could end up in a bullpen.
Yeah, I think when all is said and done, he could. You may give him a chance to start just because of the size and the fact that he does have all those pitches. But if you put him in the bullpen, his fastball slider combination, those are his 2 best pitches, would get a chance to really play up. Duke, if you were to draft a guy like Baumann, would you give him a chance to start, or do you just put him in the bullpen right away?
You know what? I think you try to clean up. He's got a little bit of arm action. You try to put him in there as a starting pitcher, and see what happens from there. A good fastball mixed with the curveball. In the end, he might end up being a relief pitcher, but there's good size there. You can see good strength and I think durability there. So I think the O's will look at him as a starter at least for the beginning, and then see what happens from there.
Orioles now, out of their 4 picks so far in this draft, 3 pitchers, 2 of them lefties, and now they've gone with Michael Baumann here in round number 3. The Blue Jays are up next.
Toronto selects redraft 8919, Adams Riley, the catcher, University of San Diego.
Toronto selects Riley Adams, a catcher from the University of San Diego.
And the Blue Jays making a run on catchers. They took Hagen Danner in round number 2, a two-way player who a lot of people think is best suited to be a catcher, and that's how they drafted him. And now they go with Riley Adams.
Yeah, another guy who, he was a Cape Cod League All-Star, so people are kind of excited. There's some strength there. But again, did not have a great junior campaign at San Diego in terms of the bat. He's a good guess hitter, and he'll cheat on fastballs a little bit, and so he still put up a home run totals. He has shown in the past, in the high school ranks in the beginning of his college career, some good catch and throw skills, but some of the scouts that I talked to weren't thrilled with how he was setting up behind the plate, and even at the plate, they had him spread out a little bit too much, kind of like former San Diego player Chris Bryant. He's not Chris Bryant. Few people can hit like that. So I think that the Blue Jays, if they can correct some of those things mechanically on both sides of the ball, it's a pretty solid all-around catcher here.
The Dodgers saw Jaron Kendall drift to them in round number 1, a top 10 talent. Who do they get here?
Here's select draft ID 2423, Wong Connor, catcher, University of Houston, Houston, Texas.
Dodgers, please submit the pick. Los Angeles Dodgers select Connor Wong, a catcher from the University of Houston.
Another catcher as Connor Wong goes to the Dodgers. Kind of an undersized catcher, but a guy who really got it done on the Cape last year as well.
Yeah, he's another catcher who stood on the Cape. And in case people are wondering, we divide the players up geographically. So I wasn't just taking 8 picks off.
I had a run.
We had the run on the West Coast there. But Connor Wong's interesting, very athletic for a catcher. His above-average speed is probably his best tool. He's got a simple swing, good pitch recognition, controls the strike zone. So I think he's going to hit for average with some sneaky power. He shows some catch and throw skills as well, probably an average arm. Needs to clean up the receiving and throwing a little bit, but nobody's necessarily talking about moving him off a catcher. But if you wanted to, you could, because he's played shortstop as a freshman. He could, if he doesn't, the one question to him, or the biggest question to him, is probably his size. He's listed at 5'11", 180, might be a little bit charitable. And the question is he physical enough to hold up over a whole pro season as a catcher? But if you can't, you're talking about a guy who could probably play just about anywhere on the diamond. Center field might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think he's even seen a little action there, and you could probably play him anywhere, be a super utility guy.
Led the Cape with 72 total bases last summer. Here's the Red Sox.
ID 1888, Netzer, Brett, second baseman, UNC Charlotte, North Carolina.
Boston selects Brett Netzer, a second baseman from UNC Charlotte.
And Brett Netzer is one of those hitters that you love, that he doesn't chase the ball. He's a solid hitter, stands in there, the second baseman out of the North Carolina ranks.
Guy we just snuck on barely onto top 200 at number 197. He was a guy who really kind of broke out in 2015 the summer. He won the Cal Ripken League batting title. Going into his sophomore year, he hit 384 at UNC Charlotte. Didn't have as big numbers this year, but you're getting the bat here. He's got a very, very quick left-handed bat, feel for the barrel, hits for average. As you mentioned, a very disciplined approach. He does have some raw power, but it's more of a line drive swing, so I think we're talking doubles here, gap power more than home runs. Average runner, not a great arm, kind of limited to second base. He's a little bit fringy there. The comp I had on him in terms of the type of player he is Tommy La Stella, who's also he was at Coastal Carolina, but as a bat first, primarily bat second baseman, he's that style of player.
So the Red Sox get Brett Netzer here in the 3rd round. The Cleveland Indians are up next. They didn't pick until number 64 overall, but they did have 2 picks on day 1. Now they get started here on day 2.
Cleveland selects draft ID 8666, Rodriguez Jonathan, a right fielder from the Carlos Beltran Academy, hometown of Florida, Puerto Rico.
Cleveland selects Jonathan Rodriguez, an outfielder from Carlos Beltran Baseball Academy in Puerto Rico.
And we always hear of players coming out of the Carlos Beltran Academy down in Puerto Rico. Won't turn 18 until November, so a very young player as well.
Yeah, extremely young player, very raw, toolsy, probably fits the right fielder profile when all is said and done. He's going to need to add a lot of strength to that 6'3", 6'4" frame. The one present grade he had is his arm, and that's really why he looks like he might fit that right field profile extremely well. He shows some ability offensively to impact the baseball. The swing can get a little long at times. He's going to need to work on that at the pro game. But because he's so young, maybe this is the kind of guy that spends a couple of summers, in Arizona and in rookie ball before he's able to move on to full season ball. But high risk, high reward. If it all comes together, he could be an everyday right fielder.
And the Indians have gone that route as far as the high school players as well. Quentin Holmes in the 1st round, the high schooler out of the New York State. Tyler Freeman, a high schooler from California, in the 2nd round. Here's the Nationals.
Washington Nationals select draft ID 8685, Roque Nick, a left-handed pitcher from the College of William & Mary.
Washington selects Nick Roque, a left-handed pitcher from the College of William & Mary.
And Nick Roque actually started his college career at the University of North Carolina, actually had to sit a year, transferred to William & Mary, and things clicked after that transfer.
Yeah, he's a lefty with a lot of arm strength, probably bullpen profile all the way. In fact, I'm almost certain of it, but up to 95, 96 miles an hour with his fastball. Can spin the breaking ball pretty well. Command has always been an issue. It's below average, or maybe even well below average command at times. So if you can
in round number 3. We know he can catch, but he struggled a little bit with wood bats in the Cape.
He did. The reason we're seeing so many catchers, it's a down year for catchers, so you're not messing around. If there's a catcher you like, you're getting him now before somebody else can. He might be, Jonathan, he might be the best catch and throw guy on the college side in this draft defensively. Of all the catchers we talked about, I think he is the best.
Joey Morgan might argue with you.
Well, you're true. Yeah, but those would be the two guys in the discussion. Didn't have a great Cape. Pressed a little bit too much at times this spring, but I think there is some hitting ability in there. Interesting to see the Rangers take him because one of the best catching prospects in the minors right now is Jose Trevino, who was a catcher at Oral Roberts. And now they have another catcher from Oral Roberts, and Matt Watt.
Maybe they got some inside information.
Maybe they did.
In the system. Hey, take this guy. Although now you have two catchers from the same school. All right, we have one more pick to go here. In round number 3, it belongs to the World Series champion Chicago Cubs. Let's see who they take to finish off round 3 of the 2017 draft.
Cubs select redraft 2935 Thompson Keegan, a right-handed pitcher from Auburn University.
Chicago Cubs select Keegan Thompson, a right-handed pitcher from Auburn.
All right, Keegan Thompson goes to the Chicago Cubs. He's a right-hander out of the Alabama ranks originally.
Yeah, he's from Auburn. He's a redshirt junior. He missed it last year with Tommy John. This is an potential upside pick here for the Cubs, who obviously are seeking pitching in the draft. They've gone heavy after pitching. I believe all their picks have been pitching this point. His best pitch is his curveball. He can pitch fastball, kind of ranges from upper 80s to low 90s. He can touch 95 with a four-seamer. Coming back from Tommy John, a lot of times we hear about guys throwing harder. What scouts told me is Keegan Thompson threw better. He was less concerned with velo. It was more about pitchability. Threw a lot of strikes this year. More mature as a pitcher now. Has a pretty good changeup too. Fastball, when all said and done, might be his third best pitch. So you got a kind of a pitchability right-hander here who can touch a 95 for an organization that has more hitters than they know what to do at the major league level. More guys like Eloy Jimenez coming up through the minors. So I think we're going to continue to see the Cubs go heavy pitching here.
And they've actually gone all pitching so far in this draft. Lefty, righty, righty, righty. Round 4 begins with the Minnesota Twins.
1184 Barnes Charlie, a left-handed pitcher from Clemson, hometown Sumter, South Carolina.
Minnesota selects Charlie Barnes, a left-handed pitcher from Clemson.
All right, Charlie Barnes out of the ACC and Clemson. The velocity is not that high, only upper 80s, but he can still get it done.
Yeah, this is your crafty lefty right here. I mean, pitching in the ACC as Clemson's #1 starter, he matched up against Brendan McKay, J.B. Bukauskas, Clark Schmidt. People may have heard of those guys if they watched the first round yesterday. And he pitched very well against all of them, which is why I think we're seeing him go where he did. I heard a lot of kind of acclaim from area scouts who watched him about how cerebral he was. Has one of the better changeups in the draft. He sells it well. He's got really deceptive arm speed. It bottoms out the plate. Sets it up. His fastball, you mentioned, it's only 86, 88. It probably tops out at 91. But it's effective because he sinks it, he commands it, he mixes it in. He's got good angle on it. He throws a curveball. He throws a cutter. Both of those are average. A lot of strikes. Like I said, this is kind of your classic pitchability lefty with a really good changeup, really good feel to pitch. Kind of the style of pitcher we associate with the Twins. They have a lot of touch and feel guys, and he's very good at doing that.
All right, we are off and running here in round number 4. Up next, the Cincinnati Reds.
Reds select ID 1361 Case Cash, the shortstop, the First Academy, Orlando, Florida.
Cincinnati selects Cash Case, a shortstop from the First Academy in Orlando, Florida.
And the First Academy is one of those powerhouse programs down in Florida. They've played in some of the best tournaments in the country, like the National High School Invitational. And Cash Case, the next guy, is shortstop out of that school.
Yeah, First Academy is still the only non-California team to win the NHSI, and they did it when Adam Hazley was their first-round pick out of Virginia. And Case is really all about the bat. Left-handed hitter, plays shortstop right now. probably will have to move. Maybe third base, especially if the bat continues to come. He's fine defensively. He's got good hands. He's got a decent arm. But he's got a really nice left-handed swing, makes consistent hard contact, and he's got at least average power. There might be more in there, so he could fit that third base profile when all is said and done. If you think he's athletic enough, maybe you turn him into an offensive-minded second baseman, but I think the hot corner might make more sense.
Played at the NHSI as a junior. I remember speaking to him, and the thing that stood out to me was the confidence. As a shortstop and a leader of a program like that, he really had that. The Padres are up next.
Padres select draft ID 610, Keating Sam, a right-handed starter from Canterbury School, Fort Myers, Florida.
San Diego selects Sam Keating, a right-handed pitcher from Canterbury School in Fort Myers, Florida.
All right, Sam Keating, another NHS high school, as we're on a run here with Canterbury. They were in the event here in 2017, and he's a guy who, at the high school level, you look at him and he's projectable.
Yeah, very projectable. And he really kind of put himself on the map at the NHSA with 4 shutout innings. There's much more in the tank than the 90 to 93 here. Some scouts did not love his arm action, and it's mostly fastball, breaking ball. But, Duke, when you look at a guy like this from an evaluator standpoint, do you think there's a lot to dream on here?
Yeah, there's a lot of projection there, Jonathan. You know, I think that's interesting. I see why they wouldn't necessarily like that arm action. It is quick. There is some length to it in the back. You know, you don't want to mess around with the arm action or change it up. But, you know, when you look at him overall and you see some of those tools and you see that projection, that's where you're hoping that maybe some modest changes to the delivery helps that arm action a little bit.
All right, thank you, Duke. So Sam Keating heads to the San Diego Padres. The Rays are up next, number 4 here in round 4.
Tampa Bay selects draft ID 228. Drew Strotman, right-handed pitcher, St. Mary's College, Moraga, California.
Tampa Bay selects Drew Strotman, a right-handed pitcher from St. Mary's College.
Drew Strotman goes to the Tampa Bay Rays. They go with another pitcher here. Early on, they went with Brendan McKay as a first baseman. Then it was Drew Rasmussen, the right-hander, then another right-hander in Michael Mercado. Round 3, they went shortstop, and now back to the arms.
Yeah, Strotman was kind of a pop-up guy who came up late on my radar anyway. Is a guy who he's tall and lean, is kind of projectable, even though he is a college guy. You know, has a chance, I think, probably to be a reliever. That's mostly where he's been. He does have a changeup to go along with his fastball, breaking ball combination, and had some really big starts late, and that's kind of why he raised his profile somewhat. But he can get up to around 95, 96 miles an hour with a power slider, and I think a lot of people think that will work best when coming out of a bullpen.
And you said he finished strong. The overall stats, 6-1, kill the win a little bit here, the 4.5 ERA, but he struck out 74 in 66 innings, so he certainly has a little bit of the power pitch to his game as well. So Drew Strotman goes to the Tampa Bay Rays. The Braves are coming up next. They have the 5th pick here as we cruise through round 4 of the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. They took, when you look at the Braves, 2 picks on day 1. Kick things off here with a two-way guy in Freddie Tarnick. Who will they take in round 4?
The Braves select redraft 4765, Bacon Troy, right-hand starter, Santa Fe Community College, hometown Tampa, Florida.
Atlanta selects Troy Bacon, a right-handed pitcher from Santa Fe Community College.
Troy Bacon goes to the Atlanta Braves, Florida guy, so not too far down the road from Atlanta. The right-handed pitcher out of the junior college ranks, as I see you guys are quickly typing away here. You look at what Atlanta's done. They went right-handed pitcher with Kyle Wright, obviously, in the first round. Then they went high school outfielder, high school pitcher, and now back to the junior college ranks. So no set trend so far for the Braves as they've kind of mixed things up. And here they go with Troy Bacon, right-handed pitcher.
He got a chance to hit some for Santa Fe Community College. The Braves actually do like the junior college ranks and have over the years, so that's something that they've looked for. He was their closer for the most part, 64 strikeouts and 40 innings. That's 14.4 strikeouts per 9 and a 1.35 earned run average.
Well done.
Scouts, help us out.
Here's the A's.
Oakland selects redraft 5934, Will Toffey, a third baseman from Vanderbilt.
Oakland selects Will Toffey, a third baseman from Vanderbilt.
All right, Will Toffey, third baseman over at Vanderbilt. Actually also starred in hockey back in his high school days, but it's all baseball now.
Yeah, I believe he played hockey with Jack Eichel, who was number 2 pick in the NHL draft. He was Vanderbilt's best hitter down the stretch and in the playoffs. Jaron Kendall, obviously the most famous player, but Will's a guy who really manages to strike zone well, had a good Cape Cod League last summer, kind of a hit and on-base guy, showed increased power down the stretch. Very good defensive third baseman. I don't think there's any question he can stay at third base. And Duke, this is a guy you've seen before, and you like Will Toffey, don't you?
You know, I have. He was at Salisbury, a private school up in Connecticut. His dad's a former agent, and this kid's been in that circuit there for a little bit. You love his approach. He's got an advanced approach, and that's where, being in, we talk about, guys who, the bloodlines or kids have been a part of other major leaguers, and, his dad, Jack Toffey, was a good baseball player, and so you can see some of that in his swing and in his stance.
All right, so the A's grab Will Toffey here in round 4. The Diamondbacks are up next.
Arizona selects draft ID 2274, Francis Harrison, right-handed starter from Lawton Chili's High School, Tallahassee, Florida.
Arizona selects Harrison Francis, a right-handed pitcher from Lawton Childs High School in Tallahassee, Florida.
And Francis, actually the younger brother of Chipola right-hander, and we saw a couple of Chipola guys go on day 1, the junior college pitcher. His older brother, Chipola's Bowden Francis, and he's also committed to Chipola, so that little program continues to thrive.
Very good program, and a little surprised that younger brother went before older brother. Bowden Francis was the conference player of the year for Chipola and helped them win the Junior College World Series. His younger brother added a lot of velocity with some added strength this year, up to the mid-90s. A lot of effort, probably more of a reliever profile, but he's got a changeup to go along with it, which is probably his best secondary pitch. He can spin the breaking ball a little tiny bit. Chipola's a really good program, but it sounds to me that maybe the younger Francis will go on. Really quick, Troy Bacon, kind of a Matt Bush profile on the line, on the mound, 92 to 97, good slider.
Here's the Phillies.
Phillies select draft ID numbers 7673, Shiner, Jake Shiner, a third baseman from the University of Houston, hometown Santa Rosa, California.
Philadelphia selects Jake Shiner, a third baseman from the University of Houston.
It's really been a nice draft so far for the University of Houston. Here goes another one as the third baseman heads to the Phillies.
Yeah, Jake Shiner's a guy who got off to a great start this year. Scouts would go see Seth Romero in particular, and Jake Shiner was hitting 400 with a big power in the first half of the season. Numbers tailed off a little bit in the second half. He, so scouts were trying to figure out where did this guy come from. He was from Santa Rosa Junior College in California. Had a big JUCO year as a sophomore. The question I think with Shiner is going to be, where do you play him? I mean, they announced third base. That makes sense. He's played some shortstop at Houston this year, but I think speed-wise he probably fits best at third base. And then it's just a question, does he hit for enough power? He's got some bat speed. There's some strength to him. There's some R-bar in his swing. So I think that's the question is, how's he going to do with wood bats against better competition? Is he going to get to enough power to profile at third? But if you saw this guy especially in the first half of the season, he was one of the more productive college hitters anywhere.
All right, good term, good draft term, arm bar. We'll get to that maybe as we move along and an explanation as we go through definitions. Brewers are up next.
Milwaukee selects ID number 5685, Murphy Brendan, a left-handed starter from Mundelein High School, Mundelein, Illinois.
Milwaukee selects Brendan Murphy, a left-handed pitcher from Mundelein High School in Illinois.
And Murphy, the number 1 prep prospect out of the state of Illinois, could end up with a couple of pitches at the plus level.
Yeah, it's interesting. Illinois, the state, I live in Illinois. The state's down probably talent-wise this year. He was not just the best high school player, but clearly to me the best prospect in the state. Wasn't sure how signable he was. Well, I think I'm getting my answer if he's drafted here in the 4th round, that the Brewers didn't take him just to let him go to Arizona State. But you look at this guy, you look here, it's a projectable frame, it's 6'4", 200, he can get stronger. He tops out at 93 right now. There's more velocity in the tank. He commands the fastball well, generates some arm side run. His changeup here does a really nice job with the changeup. The question with him that scouts have is how good is the breaking ball going to be? It's more of a kind of soft, loopy curveball. He may have to switch to a harder slider. When he gets stronger, that may be the more effective pitch. But that's really the only knock on him. I mean, you're talking about a lefty with a pretty good arm, and even though he's projectable, this stuff's already pretty good.
And projectable and from a cold weather area, so you always give that little extra. Maybe he hasn't thrown that much either. Here's the Angels.
Angels select draft ID 3592, Swanda, John, a right-handed starter from Theodore Roosevelt High School in Des Moines, Iowa.
The Angels select John Swanda, a right-handed pitcher from Theodore Roosevelt High School in Iowa.
So the Angels go to the Iowa high school ranks for John Swanda.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's another guy whose name kind of popped up late, and I wondered if he was signable, and I'm going to guess that John Swanda is signable in the 4th round here. He's heading to Nebraska. That's his college commitment. Scouts thought he had a chance to be a pretty good pick in 3 years if he went to Nebraska. He winds up being a pretty good pick right now. Would have been perhaps a two-way player for the Cornhuskers. Obviously drafted here as a pitcher. 91-93 on the mound. He's doing that a lot more consistently than he has in the past. He's showing the ability to spin a curveball, show some control. So it's kind of a raw pitcher here, but the ingredients there are nice. You have fastball, you have curveball, you have potential control. Pretty interesting guy right here.
All right, and he goes to the Angels out of the high school ranks of Iowa. All right, on next, the Colorado Rockies, who didn't have a first-round pick because of the signing of Ian Desmond, but they've already had 3 picks since. Here's their 4th.
The Rockies select redraft 2945, McMahon, Pearson, right-handed starter, St. John's River State, Palatka, Florida.
Colorado selects Pearson McMahon, a right-handed pitcher from St. John's River State College.
Pearson McMahon, the right-handed pitcher, St. John's River State College. That's down there in Florida, and he goes to the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies took William Gaddis in their last round, back in the 3rd round out of Furman. Probably end up being a reliever on day 1. It was Ryan Valade. They took the 3rd baseman, shortstop. Probably will end up being a 3rd baseman out of the high school ranks in Oklahoma. And then they had a competitive balance pick B round, and they went with Tommy Doyle, a right-handed pitcher out of Virginia. That Virginia program that, despite not making the College World Series this time around, has had a great draft so far. We saw them go with back-to-back picks in the top 10, and then they had Tommy Doyle go later on in the 2nd round.
Scouts taking care of us. They could sense we were looking here. Athletic pitcher with a lot of arm speed, mid-90s up to 97, flashes a plus slider. Shows some feel for a changeup, but doesn't use it very often. Believe he's committed to Florida next year.
All right, here's the White Sox.
White Sox select redraft ID 4106, Hensman Lincoln. He's a right-handed starter from the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky.
Chicago White Sox select Lincoln Hensman, a right-handed pitcher from the University of Louisville.
All right, Lincoln Hensman actually had Tommy John surgery back in high school, but he's moved on to Louisville. He's been successful.
Yeah, he's interesting because they announced him as a right-handed starter. He's been more of a reliever at Louisville, very effective, 90-95 coming out of the pen. He's got a changeup with splitter action that can be a plus pitch at times, a cutter that can be tough to hit. So I'd be kind of torn. He's been so dominant out of the pen, but you do multiple pitches and strikes. It's fairly interesting. Duke, I believe this is a guy who's caught your eye, isn't he?
Yeah, he did a little bit. I think those are the interesting decisions they got to make. Do you keep him in that closer role or not? I think, for a guy like him, he's had the Tommy John already. You want to certainly try to stretch him out from a pitch side of things, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back in that bullpen, something that he's done well, a guy that maybe goes through the system quickly, as a relief pitcher and see what happens.
And he's a guy on that Louisville program that is in the College World Series, and we will see how he does over the next week as they try to bring a national championship back to Kentucky. Here's the Pirates in round 4.
Pirates select redraft 1332, DeLay, Jason DeLay, a catcher from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Pittsburgh selects Jason DeLay, a catcher from Vanderbilt.
And Jason DeLay is one of those college seniors, and he's a catcher. Was actually an 11th round pick for the Giants just a year ago. Went unsigned, went back to Vanderbilt, and here he goes moving up to round 4.
We talked about, senior catchers are very desirable. And DeLay is desirable not just because he's a senior, but also he's handled a lot of quality pitching at Vanderbilt. Kyle Wright, obviously, this year. So many great arms at Vanderbilt in the 4 years he's been there. He's one of the better catch and throw guys in the draft. He's got a strong arm. He'll show you some power in BP. It is defense over hit, but there is some raw power that you see in BP. Probably maybe a backup. Realistically, looking down the road, more of a backup with the chance for a little thump. But it's really good defense. Some of the best defense in college, and that's what makes Jason DeLay attractive here to the Pirates.
And these catchers continue to go. I don't remember this many catchers going here so early on day 2 of the draft. But Jason DeLay goes to the Pirates as college senior from Vandy. Here's the Marlins.
Miami.
Marlins select draft ID 1156, Hawk Colton, the right-handed starter from Stanford University.
Miami selects Colton Hawk, a right-handed pitcher from Stanford.
Colton Hawk out of Stanford, the junior right-handed pitcher. I pitched out of the bullpen at Stanford for his first 2 years, but moved on into the rotation here as a junior.
Well, he actually didn't, which is what they announced him as a starter. He started in the Cape Cod League and was really, really good there, and scouts were hoping he would be in the rotation, but he ended up closing for Stanford. And interesting enough, his stuff actually backed up a little bit in the relief role compared to how he threw in the Cape. I thought it was interesting that he was announced as a starter there. I wonder if that means that the Marlins will send him out as a starter. And he's got 3 pitches that he can throw for strikes. None of it is wow bullpen stuff where you think, oh, he should be a closer. He wouldn't close at the next level. So I would give him every chance to start. Fastball, his curveball's above average. He's got a usable changeup, and he's generally around the strike zone.
The Kansas City Royals are up next as they try to replenish that system that's given them so much young talent in recent years.
Kansas City Royals select ID 2013, Gigliotti, Michael. Center fielder, Lipscomb University, Nashville, Tennessee.
Kansas City selects Michael Gigliotti, a center fielder from Lipscomb University.
And the thing that really stands out as far as Gigliotti goes is he's a great athlete, but he can also get it done with the bat.
Well, there's a little bit of a question. He was tremendous in the Cape Cod League last summer. I would have thought he would have been a first-round pick. He won the Scouts Prospect of the Year award. His manager, Jeff Trundy, who's been at Falmouth for a long time, said he was similar but more advanced to Jacoby Ellsbury than when Trundy managed Jacoby Ellsbury up there. Didn't have that kind of spring when he came back to Lipscomb. I mean, he's a plus runner. Maybe shows you a little bit quicker than that at times, can play center field. But it's almost like somebody told him, hey, your role is to be a table setter. You got to focus on getting on base. And he was too passive for the first half of the season. Now, he did finish strong in May. He looked more like the guy you saw in the Cape. It's not going to be a lot of impact in terms of power. But if you get some reasonable facsimile of what you saw in the Cape, you're getting a guy with good hitting, good on-base skills, who can steal bases and really play a nice center field. So this is an upside play for the Royals. Coming into the year, we would have said first-round pick. He was in our top 25 or 30 prospects in the draft. So to get this guy here could be really nice for the Royals.
All right, here's the Houston Astros in round 4.
The Houston Astros select draft ID, redraft 7618, Solomon Peter, right-handed pitcher from the University of Notre Dame.
Houston selects Peter Solomon, a right-handed pitcher from the University of Notre Dame.
Peter Solomon's a guy dominated as a reliever on the Cape, but maybe too many pitches to be a reliever professionally.
Well, not enough strikes. Yeah. I mean, the problem is, he was another one of these Cape stars, and he can show you 92, 94, 96. He can show you plus curveball and plus slider. He can have a changeup too. Notre Dame was supposed to this star-studded rotation this year. He just didn't throw enough strikes. He wound up in the bullpen. I think that's the role he fits best in. He still didn't throw a ton of strikes, but he's a lot more effective. But Duke, I don't know if you got to see him in the Cape Cod League last summer, but he was one of the better pitchers in the league. We're on a little Cape Cod League run right now.
A little bit of a Cape Cod run, and he's a Maryland kid too. So if I talked to some scouts who'd seen him in high school, and he's a guy, I think I agree with you, he's a guy that will probably end up back in the bullpen. He doesn't throw enough strikes, but they may try to clean up the delivery. He throws across his body a little bit there, which I don't remember scouts telling me a couple years ago. So we'll see if he dials in the strikes a little bit better there.
Yeah, the dominance on the Cape. How about a .55 ERA last summer? Here's the Yankees.
The New York Yankees select ID number 595, Smith Kanan, right fielder, Rockwall Heath High School in Texas.
Yankees select Kanan Smith, a right fielder from Rockwall Heath High School in Heath, Texas.
So the Yankees go down to Texas and the high school ranks to grab Kanan Smith.
Interesting guy. And this is a guy who walked almost 60 times this year in high school. So if you wanted to go in and try to see him hit, you might get to see him walk instead. But he's athletic. He's a quarterback. He's played all over the diamond. He's got some power potential. I think he probably winds up in the outfield. They announced him as a right fielder. That makes sense because with the power potential and the arm strength, I think it's kind of that typical right field profile.
All right, so Kanan Smith goes to the New York Yankees, who have had a really intriguing draft so far as where they've gone. Clark Schmidt, obviously, in the first round, and then to come back and get Matt Sauer, which made Clark Schmidt make a lot more sense in the second round. Trevor Stevens, the right-hander out of Arkansas, was who they took back in the third round, and now Kanan Smith in round number 4 as we're getting ready for the Seattle Mariners to pick here in round number 4. They stayed close to home back in the third round, taking right-handed pitcher Wyatt Mills out of Gonzaga, and we'll see what they do here in round number 4.
Seattle. The Mariners select draft ID 4075, last name Elledge, first name Seth, a right-hand pitcher from Dallas Baptist University, Dallas, Texas.
Seattle selects Seth Elledge, a right-handed pitcher from Dallas Baptist.
And he's actually Dallas Baptist career saves leader, and it's the Dallas Baptist program that we've seen so many pitchers come out of in recent years.
Yeah, it seems like they, too, we're always talking about Dallas Baptist pitchers. I believe he's the 6th in the last 5 years to go in the top 5 rounds. The most famous of those is the Yankees. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, we'll get back to Seth Elledge. I was thinking two things there and got myself confused. Anyway, it's a quick arm. It's 93-95 fastball with heavy sink that commands to both sides of the plate. Low 80 slider for strikes. He can turn it into a cutter. Does get slurvy a little bit. He's got feel for a changeup that doesn't use much in a relief role. But it's Caleb Adams is who I'm trying to come up with the Yankees, who they turned into a starter after he was a reliever at Dallas Baptist, and the stuff's gotten really good, and he's on the verge of making the big league. So it'll be curious to see with Seth Elledge. The delivery is not the cleanest starter's delivery, but there may be that temptation, especially when you see what the Yankees got out of a Dallas Baptist reliever, to make him into a starter at the pro level.
All right, up next is the Cardinals.
Cardinals select redraft number 6902, Robertson Kramer, a shortstop from LSU.
St. Louis selects Kramer Robertson, a shortstop from LSU.
And Kramer Robertson, another senior sign, a shortstop out of LSU, son of Baylor women's basketball coach Kim Mulkey.
Yeah, and he's a senior sign, but he's also a very good performer for the LSU, which we'll get to see in the College World Series. His best tool is probably his speed. He's been the shortstop at LSU, may shift over to second base at the pro level, but has a chance to stay at short. Back control guy, not a lot of power, kind of your typical gritty college middle infielder. And I was all over the place on that Dallas with Seth Elledge and Dallas Baptist. Chance Adams, Caleb Adams, I think, was a former outfielder. I don't know where I
Angel system, but it's okay.
Anyway, Chance Adams, I'm sorry, but Kramer Robertson had heard that he could be one of the first seniors taken because it's an up-the-middle guy. There aren't a whole lot of them on the college side. He can stay up the middle, even if it winds up being second base rather than shortstop. But he's performed at a top program in a top conference.
How about having to replace Alex Bregman at shortstop at LSU, and he managed to do that and raise the level of his play at the same time?
Yeah, certainly a nice job. And a college senior for a Cardinals team that doesn't have that much of a bonus pool. Here's the Tigers.
The Detroit Tigers select draft ID 9055, Arriera Gio, right-handed starter, Palm Beach State College in Lake Worth, Florida.
Detroit selects Gio Arriera, a right-handed pitcher from Palm Beach State College.
Small college, Palm Beach State College down in Florida, and Gio Arriera heads out of there, and the Tigers select him here in round number 4. They took Joey Morgan, the talented defensive catcher out of Washington, back in the third round. What do we have on Arriera?
Yeah, another interesting junior college arm going right here. Command is his biggest issue, but when he's throwing strikes, heavy fastball with a lot of sink, misses bats, get ground balls, and I'll even show an above-average breaking ball along with it. I think because of the lack of command, He may end up in the bullpen. Maybe you give him a chance to start just because he's got a lot of arm strength. He can maintain his velocity for deep into outings. But if he doesn't start throwing more strikes, I think the fastball curveball combination could work out of the bullpen as well.
All right, the San Francisco Giants are coming up next. They're a team that always seems to take guys maybe a little ahead of where you expect, and then they become great major league players. Round 1, they took Helio Ramos, maybe one of those guys, then Jacob Gonzalez, who they have here in round 4.
Giants select redraft 5'9", 5'7", Garrett Cave, a right-handed starter from the University of Tampa.
San Francisco selects Garrett Cave, a right-handed pitcher from the University of Tampa.
And Garrett Cave's a guy who actually played 2 seasons at Florida International, and then he transferred to the Division II level.
Yeah, he did, and another Cape Cod guy who was really, really good as a closer during the summer, and I think the bullpen is probably where he ends up. I mean, he's got one of the better fastballs, up to 97, 98 miles an hour, especially in the shorter stints. He throws a curveball and a slider. The power slider is much better, but he throws the curve more often. He'll probably have to choose one later on. He's got a changeup, but it's behind the other 3. If you want to give him a chance to start, the one thing that he does do is he maintains his velocity for deep into starts, and that's sometimes hard to find. He's got a good frame for pitching and some durability. But I think if the secondary stuff, the changeup doesn't come along, the command doesn't come along, you put him in the bullpen and that arm strength should play and let him move pretty quickly.
And we're at that part where you love those fast-moving guys out of the bullpen. The New York Mets are up next.
Mets select ID 3317, DeBrell Michael, right-handed pitcher, Kennesaw State University.
New York Mets select Michael DeBrell, a right-handed pitcher from Kennesaw State.
Michael DeBrell goes to the New York Mets. Kennesaw State, a talented baseball team, and here he goes.
Yeah, clearly the best college prospect in Georgia this year. Georgia colleges were down somewhat, but here's a guy, Tony DeBrell, sits 92, 94, touches 96. He's got some aptitude for a changeup. Came up with a hard cutter slider that really became his go-to second pitch. He also has some depth to a pretty good curveball. They're not consistent necessarily, but the fastball, slider, and changeup all can be plus pitches when he's at his best. So he's got the ingredients to start. He's going to have to throw more strikes to do that. The comp I got on him was to another Georgia high school. It was a high school product, but it was Edwin Jackson was the comp I got on him.
And DeBrell, yet another guy who had a great summer on the Cape last year. He goes to the New York Mets here, the right-handed pitcher out of Kennesaw State. That brings us to the Baltimore Orioles here as we truck along through round number 4 here of the 2017 Major League Baseball Draft. Here's the Orioles.
The Orioles select ID 2693, John Conlon, a right-handed starter out of the Clements School in Sugar Land, Texas.
Baltimore selects John Conlon, a right-handed pitcher from the Clements School in Sugar Land, Texas.
And John Conlon sometimes goes by Jack as well, the right-handed pitcher out of the Texas ranks, and he is committed to a talented Texas A&M team, a team that has a great class coming in if they get them all.
Yeah, and they're going to Omaha, too. Yeah. We'll see him in the College World Series. He's a real interesting guy because didn't get to see a lot of him last year because he missed most of his junior year with an oblique injury. You see him on the right day. It's 92-95 with the fastball. It's 81-84 with the slider. It's a great build. It's 6'4", 220. There's some effort to delivery. He did clean it up some this spring. Work in progress, but a high-quality arm here. And Duke, I think you mentioned this was a guy who kind of intrigued you.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a rough delivery. I think you touched on that a little bit. But I think it's one of those where he's got the good enough stuff. You see, from a high school kid's a standpoint where there's something there to work with. You can see he's certainly aggressive with his pitches, aggressive with the fastball. He's got the good velocity there. So I like that pick for 4th round.
All right, so that's the Orioles taking Jack Conlon here in round 4. The Toronto Blue Jays are next. They've taken back-to-back catchers.
Toronto selects draft ID number 3597, Smith Kevin, shortstop, University of Maryland.
Toronto selects Kevin Smith, a shortstop from the University of Maryland.
And Kevin Smith, a 3-year starter for the Terps down at the University of Maryland. Also, speaking of the Cape League, we keep doing that. He was the playoff MVP on the Cape last summer.
I was going to say, guess where he played well over the summer? And he did. And then didn't back it up as much at Maryland. He's kind of like Taylor Walls was from Florida State in terms of a college performer with some track record, starting for 3 years at a good program. Swung well with wood in his hands. He's got some power. I mean, that's what makes him stand out a little bit more, is that he can drive the ball to all fields. But I think what happened to him this year, he's got a little too pull happy, tried to sell out for power, thinking it would help him. He should be able to stay at short. Good hands, good instincts, not great speed, and the arm is okay. So I think he's going to be one of these kind of steady college performers.
And originally out of New York State, headed down to Maryland for college, and now Kevin Smith will head back north to the Toronto Blue Jays here. He's their 4th-round pick. The Dodgers are up next.
Dodgers select draft ID 7616, Marion James, right-handed starter, Park Vista Community High School, Boynton Beach, Florida.
The Dodgers select James Marion, a right-handed pitcher, Park Vista Community High School in Boynton Beach, Florida.
And James Marion, another one of those guys we like to call him the pop-up guys, and a big reason the velocity popped up this spring.
Yeah, really did. I like this pick a lot for the Dodgers here, because he was making a lot of noise as the high school season, because he popped up and then he kept it up. You know, sometimes you see these pop-up guys and they're once, and then everyone comes pouring in and they don't maintain. But he's got a fastball curve combo right now. I think the changeup should be able to come. He's around the zone. Size and arm strength, I think, are what really stand out for him, right, Duke?
Yeah, you know what, Jonathan, I like him, like you said, I like him even a little bit different. There's not as much to clean up as the Orioles pick just had there with Conlon. See the good breaking ball. It sounded like the reports were in between a slider and a curveball, but he shows the makings of a pretty good curveball there. I think it's worth continuing to see if you can develop it a little bit more.
So another pitcher here for the Dodgers. They went with a college right-hander back in the 2nd round. They go the high school ranks here. The Boston Red Sox are up next.
Red Sox select draft ID 8169, Thompson Jake, right-handed starter, Oregon State University, Corvallis, Oregon.
Boston selects Jake Thompson, a right-handed pitcher from Oregon State.
And another player off that great Oregon State Beaver team. Here's the Sunday starter from that team that's headed to Omaha.
Yeah, he's got a good arm. It's leading up to the draft, I didn't really understand why people weren't talking about him more than they were. Maybe just because of so much talent in Oregon State. But this is a guy who has had a lot of success, albeit as the Sunday starter. He can be up into the mid-90s. He's got a slider that's above average, and he's got an average changeup. He's improved his walk rate a lot, and I think that while there's concern about his command, I think he's got enough there to you give him a chance to start because of those improvements. But if you put him into the bullpen, the fastball-slider combination is really going to play up well.
He looked really good against Vanderbilt the other night in the Super Regionals, pitched the opener, pitched into the 8th inning. He's now kind of moved to the head of the rotation. They've had some shuffling going around, and incredible team, 54-4, #1 national seed going into the College World Series.
Yeah, they've lived up to it. They avoided the upset in the regionals, and here's the Indians in round 4.
Cleveland selects draft ID 9473, Clement Ernie, a second baseman from the University of Virginia, hometown of Rochester, New York.
Cleveland selects Ernie Clement, a second baseman from the University of Virginia.
And here's one of those guys at a Virginia team that was loaded with Pavin Smith and Adam Hazley. And, hey, the scouts are going to see you play, too. And infield, he also played outfield in college. They like him as enough.
Yeah, he's moved around. I thought they announced him as a second baseman,
they did,
actually.
Yeah.
But he has played the outfield. He played shortstop a lot this year and showed enough where you think, all right, if we needed him to play there, he could. He probably needs to move around a little bit. Second base, if he's going to play every day, probably makes the most sense. He's got some ability to hit. He can run well. He fields well. He does all the little things well. Not a lot of strength, so there's not power to come there. He's going to have to try to add some strength to continue to impact the baseball, I think, at the next level as he continues to move. But certainly helped out by the fact that everyone was coming in to see Pavin Smith and Adam Hazley. And he's a guy who's performed well at a very good program.
Yeah, and he was drafted as a second baseman. Here's the Nationals in round 4.
Washington.
Washington Nationals select redraft 192 Freeman Cole, second baseman from LSU.
Washington selects Cole Freeman, a second baseman from LSU.
And another college senior out of LSU. We talked about the shortstop there at LSU. Here's the second baseman.
Yeah, I was kind of curious which guy would go first because they were kind of both talked about in the same breath as LSU. And guess where he played really well last summer, Tim?
Cape Cod.
You are correct. And the different Cole Freeman, his best tool is clearly his speed. He's a well above average runner. He's a high contact, low power type of hitter. He covers a lot of ground at second base. Definitely, I think, can stay in the infield in pro ball. He does not have a great arm, which is why you don't see him on the left side of the diamond. That's why Robertson's the shortstop, Freeman's the second base. But those two guys, we saw Greg Dykman's already been drafted off that LSU team out of their lineup. We saw Alex Lang drafted in the first round, their ace pitcher. There's a reason LSU is also headed to Omaha. It seems like we're talking about an awful lot of guys who perform well in the Cape Cod League, and I haven't been keeping track, but I bet we've had close to a dozen guys in the first couple rounds today who are headed to Omaha when the College World Series begins.
Yeah, between LSU and Texas A&M, and you can watch them this week in the College World Series. Here's the Rangers.
Rangers select ID 6934, Deese Ryan. He's a right-handed pitcher from TNXL Academy, hometown Ultimate Springs, Florida.
Texas selects Ryan Deese, a right-handed pitcher from TNXL Academy in Longwood, Florida.
And after going to the college ranks for the first time in round number 3, the Rangers back to high school arms, and they've gone a lot of young players so far in this draft as they try to refuel that organization that was once one of the very tops, but obviously a lot of those players have come up and been traded away for other talent.
I know it's hard to believe the Rangers going after another high upside high school guy, but he is a sort of projectable right-hander. He's got room to add some strength. He'll touch 91, 92, but there's so much more in the tank based on his body and his delivery so far. The secondary stuff needs some work. The Next Level Academy is interesting. It's a cyber school in Florida that was started for kids to just focus on baseball. Jack Leftwich, who hasn't been drafted yet, is another guy who kind of left school, did the cyber school thing, got his degree, and was able to focus solely on baseball at TNXL.
All right, final pick of round 4 as we are zipping along here on day number 2. It's the Chicago Cubs.
Cubs select draft ID 1320, Yeoman Eric, a right-handed pitcher from Cal Poly.
Chicago Cubs select Eric Yeoman, a right-handed pitcher from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
And Eric Ullman is a guy who worked his way up, started in the bullpen, and eventually found his way to being the Friday night starter at San Luis Obispo.
It's possible he pitched over the summer. That's all I'm going to say. And actually showed a little bit more velocity on the Cape than he did this year, but he was still pitching effectively. Was their Friday starter, started in the bullpen, moved his way into that. We actually saw the Saturday starter from Cal Poly, Spencer Howard, go yesterday because his pure stuff may be a little bit better. But Yeoman, average to a tick above average fastball, slider, changeup, and control. So maybe he's a back end of the rotation kind of guy. He has a chance to get a lot of ground ball outs because his fastball does have some good sink to it. Kind of comes from a low 3/4 slot. So if starting doesn't work out, you put him in the bullpen. He's the kind of guy you bring in, 6th, 7th inning with runners on to get that ground ball double play that you need. He could be a real rally killer.
So Eric Ullman rounds out round number 4. We're ready for round number 5 as we cruise right along back to the top with the Twins.
Twins select redraft 6132 Bechtold Andrew, a third baseman from Chipola College, hometown Chadford, Pennsylvania.
Minnesota selects Andrew Bechtold, a third baseman from Chipola College.
And Chipola College, a couple of players went on day number 1. They won the Junior College World Series, and Andrew Bechtold was the other guy off that team that we knew we would hear eventually.
I actually thought he'd be the first guy off the board based on what I was hearing from players. And, You know, this is a guy who was at University of Maryland, was told he wasn't going to be a regular player, so he went and showed that he was the best hitter in junior college on the best team in junior college. He can hit for average, he can hit for power, he's got the tools to stay at third. I had one scout tell me that he showed to everyone that he could hit in the number 3 hole for any college program in the country, not just a junior college program. They thought he was that good. So, you know, we may have even underranked him a little bit on our top 200 based on where we had him. So I was a little surprised that Reynaldo Rivera went ahead of him, but a good chance that he fits the profile at third base.
Now that Chipola team's loaded. They won the national title. They might have 10 or 12 players drafted. I think they could compete at a high level of Division I baseball.
Yeah.
Here's the Cincinnati Reds.
Select redraft 4731 Soroller Joseph. He's a right-handed pitcher from Southeastern Louisiana University, hometown Denham Springs, Louisiana.
Cincinnati selects Joseph Soroller, a right-handed pitcher from Southeastern Louisiana University.
Also goes by Max Sorolla, Southeastern Louisiana. He's actually the nephew of Ben McDonald, who starred at LSU before making his way to the majors.
I believe he's also the nephew of Brett Laxton, another LSU star. So why isn't this guy at LSU? He actually wound up pitching against him in the NCAA playoffs. A good arm. He contributed right away as a freshman. He was a closer as a freshman, draft-eligible sophomore last year who went in the 36th round to the Phillies. Here he goes to the Reds, but as a starter, 91-93, touching 95. He's got a 11-5 break on the curveball. He's got some fade to his changeup. He'll mix in a slider, although sometimes the breaking pitches blend together. He throws enough strikes that I think you can project this guy as maybe a number 4 starter. He got off to a really hot start this year. They looked at he maybe go in the top 3 rounds, maybe midway through the year. You know, we projected, I guess, for him to draft in the 4th or 5th round, so I guess it was a pretty good projection on our part.
Pat yourselves on the back.
Well, I will.
All right, nicely done. The San Diego Padres are up next here in round 5.
Padres select draft ID 1911 Hamza Johnny, a third baseman from South Anchorage High School, Anchorage, Alaska.
San Diego selects Johnny Hamza, a third baseman from South Anchorage High School in Anchorage, Alaska.
We talk about guys in the cold weather climate of New York and how scouts don't get out there until later in the spring and see what they can do. How about the Alaska ranks?
It's not surprising to know that Johnny Hamza was the Alaska Player of the Year for 2 years. He may have been the high school Player of the Year when he was in 7th grade, for all I know. He's the one guy there. He played for the Langley Blaze, actually, which is a Canadian travel team. Came down to Arizona in March, played really, really well there. Kind of an interesting guy because he played shortstop, for his high school team. He's played a lot of third base. That's probably where he'll play. But he's also seen some time behind the plate. Now, the Padres have already drafted some young catching in this draft, but it'll be interesting to see if they ever want to give that a look because he was showing some teams in pre-draft workouts what he could do behind the plate. An added wrinkle, some more versatility, but can swing the bat a little bit as well.
Yeah, on day 1 they went with Luis Campesano Bracero, who you guys had fun with that name on day 1, and then Blake Hunt as well. A couple of catchers, Blake Hunt from Mater Dei High School. So a couple of talented catchers on day 1. Here's a guy who maybe you can try there at some point. Here's the Rays.
Tampa Bay selects draft ID 3543. Fleming, Josh Fleming, left-handed starting pitcher, Webster University, St. Louis, Missouri.
Tampa Bay selects Josh Fleming, a left-handed pitcher from Webster University.
All right, Josh Fleming, first player ever from Division III Webster to be drafted. That's my trivia for the day.
I did not know that.
See
Good
that?
call. Let's look
I
at
beat
you.
Jim Callis on that.
You got scattered?
I win. No.
Okay.
You take it from here.
That's okay. I'm impressed. I did not realize that. But he's a left-handed pitcher, about 6'1", 180, 88 to 92. He'll touch a 94 every once in a while. Changeup is his best secondary pitch. The breaking ball could use a little bit of improvement, but if you can tighten up the breaking ball a little bit, you might have a back of the rotation starter here. Good feel for pitching.
All right, so there you go. Webster College on the map here as far as the draft goes. Josh Fleming goes to the Rays. The Atlanta Braves are up next at number 5 here as we cruise through round number 5. We're going to take you all the way through round 10 today here as we continue day 2 of the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. The Braves in round 4 went with Troy Bacon, right-handed pitcher, closer at Santa Fe. Let's see who they take here.
The
Braves select draft ID 4092 Zimmerman Bruce, Mount Olive University, left-hand starter. Hometown is Woodstock, Maryland.
Atlanta selects Bruce Zimmerman, a left-handed pitcher from Mount Olive University.
So that's 2 straight rounds that the Braves have kind of challenged you guys a little bit after taking Troy Bacon back in round number 4. Now it's Bruce Zimmerman, left-handed pitcher from Mount Olive.
Well, this is my hubris coming back to bite me, because while we were driving over here, I was telling Jonathan how I'm prepared for a couple of Lennar Ryan pitchers to get drafted out of North Carolina, but Mount Olive's stumping me. So we'll ask our scouting friends to help us out with that one.
While we're waiting, I'm going to just throw out that today's actually Alaskan Johnny Hamza's birthday today. So, Johnny, happy birthday. Not a better way to celebrate than being drafted on day 2.
I tell you what, to get noticed out of Alaska, impressive. You said he played with the team out of Canada and made the trip down south, and great stuff for Hamza. And we're going to get more information on Zimmerman as we go. Coming up next, the Oakland A's are up next on the draft board. Will Toffee was their pick last time around after they took Nick Allen back in the 3rd round.
Oakland selects draft ID 1801 Santi Sanchez, a catcher from the International Baseball Academy.
Oakland selects Santi Sanchez, catcher from the International Baseball Academy in Puerto Rico.
We hear about the Carlos Beltran Academy. Here's a separate academy down in Puerto Rico. Santi Sanchez, a talented catcher, and he'll head to the A's as we see another catcher go, and they've been busy. A lot of high school players. The A's have been taking high upside guys. It all started back on day 1 with Austin Beck, the talented high school outfielder. They went with Kevin Merrill in the competitive balance A round out of South Florida, and Greg Dykman, the outfielder from LSU. We talked about that LSU team and all the players that are heading to the College World Series. They took him back in round number 2 before going with Nick Allen in round 3, and Allen's a guy that's going to take some kind of pretty good bonus probably to get signed, and maybe that's when you here's a high school player, Santi Sanchez, the catcher, as you guys continue
We're efforting on that.
Jim's
I
got
do have Bruce Zimmerman.
Go ahead.
Senior left-handed starter, up to 92 miles an hour with a fastball, average curveball, and changeup. Friday night starter for Mount Olive. So
all right,
thanks
excellent.
again to the scouts for helping us here.
We'll work on Sanchez. The D-backs are next.
Arizona selects draft ID 3081 Kennedy Buddy, a third baseman from Millville Senior High School, Millville, New Jersey.
Arizona selects Buddy Kennedy, a third baseman from Millville Senior High School in Millville, New Jersey.
And if Millville Senior High School sounds familiar, that is Mike Trout's high school. And Buddy Kennedy and Mike Trout actually friends. They develop a relationship over the year. Trout gets back to New Jersey and Millville a lot in the offseason, and he knows Buddy Kennedy. And here's Buddy Kennedy getting drafted by the D-backs.
Our very own Mark Feinstein wrote a nice story about Buddy Kennedy and his relationship with Mike Trout. Kind of patterns himself. His mannerisms are similar just from being around him, and why not? Some of it is similar, kind of a stocky build. It's got a feel for the barrel. It's more strength over bat speed than anything else. But he makes consistent hard contact. He plays the game the right way. He runs better than you think he would. He's got a good arm. So there's some interesting things there. And listen, working out with Mike Trout every offseason is only going to help you.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to hurt. And he heads out to the Arizona Diamondbacks, does Buddy Kennedy. The Phillies are coming up next year.
Philadelphia.
Phillies select draft ID number 3159, Lindau. Ethan Lindau, a left-hand pitcher from Locust Grove High School, Locust Grove, Georgia, hometown McDonough, Georgia.
Philadelphia selects Ethan Lindau, a left-handed pitcher from Locust Grove High School in Georgia.
All right, another talented player out of the Georgia high school ranks, Ethan Lindau, goes to the Phillies.
Yeah, Ethan Lindau, I don't feel like I've used the word projectable often enough today, so I'll throw it out here again. 6'3", 180-pound left-hander from the state of Georgia, Locust Grove High. Very good in the state playoffs last year. Came out this year, was throwing 87 miles an hour, but he's been up to 92 as the draft approached. His curveball improved. He shows some feel for a change. So you're looking at a lefty here with some projection remaining, some aptitude for throwing 3 pitches. It's a pretty interesting package, I think.
All right, and he heads to the Phillies. They took Jake Shiner back in the 4th round from the University of Houston, Connor Siebold in round 3 here from Cal State Fullerton. So they've mixed things up a little bit. The Milwaukee Brewers are coming up next as we continue on round 5 here of the 2017 draft. They took Brendan Murphy, left-hander out of the Illinois high school ranks, who Jim really liked as the best overall player coming out of Illinois, and we'll see who the Brewers take here in round 5.
Milwaukee selects ID number 3663, Agnetek Nick, a third baseman from Immaculata High School in Somerville, New Jersey.
Milwaukee selects Nick Agnetek, third baseman from Immaculata High School in New Jersey.
And we talked about Buddy Kennedy being from the same high school as Mike Trout in New Jersey. Here's another New Jersey player in Nick Agnetek, and he's actually from the same high school as Jack Cust, who was a first-round pick back in 1997. Another high school player from the Garden State.
And I guess they like raw power from that high school because that's what Agnetek has. He's got a lot of it. If you go watch him take batting practice, you're wowed by him. And he looks the part. He's very strong. He's got some bat speed. But it hasn't translated into games, rolls over on pitches a little bit too much, so they're going to need to work on getting that raw power to translate into game situations where the game speeds up a little bit on him. Maybe moves to left field when all is said and done. Really quickly on Sanchez, really good catch and throw guy, plus arm, some power at the bat. It's going to have to watch his conditioning to be able to stay behind the plate.
All right, as we promised, information on Santi Sanchez as we roll along. The 10th pick here in round number 5 belongs to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Who will they take here? Round 5.
Angels select draft ID 1098, Booker Joseph, right-handed starter from T.R. Miller High School in Bruton, Alabama.
Angels select Joseph Booker, a right-handed pitcher, T.R. Miller High School in Bruton, Alabama.
Another player from Alabama. We hear more and more players from the state of Alabama, it seems like, from draft to draft. Here's Joseph Booker. He's heading to the Angels.
Yeah, and he's interesting. He was a guy, he's more known as a football player, big arm strength, up to 93. The fastball can get a little straight. Breaking ball's inconsistent, but when he's on it, it's got some spin, it's got some shape to it. You know, he's more of he's going to take some time to polish. The command isn't there yet, the control isn't there yet. It's more you're drafting raw stuff here. You're drafting an athlete committed to South Alabama.
All right, so that's the Angels pick as we're through 10 picks here in round number 5. We're taking you all the way through 10 rounds here on day 2 of the 2017 draft. Tim McMaster here with Jonathan Mayo and Jim Callis. The Colorado Rockies are up next on the clock as they make up no first-round pick, but they've been busy since, as they'll be making their 5th pick here of the draft here in round number 5. They took Pearson McMahon, the right-handed pitcher, back in the 4th round. Let's see who the Rockies take here.
Colorado.
The Rockies select draft ID number 8471, Kennedy Nick, left-handed starter, University of Texas, Austin, Texas.
Colorado selects Nick Kennedy, a left-handed pitcher from the University of Texas.
There you go, University of Texas, the Longhorn Nick Kennedy, the lefty, will head to the Colorado Rockies. We talked about the Rockies taking pitchers that kind of fit what they need to do, and you've talked about that. Does he fit that mold?
Yeah, he's he left-handed pitcher, maybe more of a reliever than a starter in the long run. They announced him as a starter. Up to 94, he'll sit around 91, throws strikes. He gets a lot of swings and misses against lefties. The breaking ball can be inconsistent. Draft-eligible sophomore. Didn't have a very good year last year for Texas. Much better this year. Kind of pitched back and forth between starting rotation and the bullpen. Scouts, like with most guys, the stuff's going to play up coming out of the bullpen. But I think he's more of an arm strength, relative arm strength for lefty than your classic 3-pitch lefty who's filling the strike zone.
All right, the Chicago White Sox are up next. They've been busy as far as the college ranks go. Jake Berger, Gavin Sheets, Luis Gonzalez, Lincoln Hensman, all from the college ranks. Who do they take here?
White Sox select draft ID 2697, Johnson Tyler, right-handed starter from the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina.
Chicago White Sox select Tyler Johnson, a right-handed pitcher from the University of South Carolina.
All right, Tyler Johnson. He's been South Carolina's closer, but there's some thought process, right, that he could start?
Yeah, I mean, he throws a lot of strikes. On the flip side, he had some injury issues this year, missed about 6 weeks early in the season. Coming out of the bullpen, I'll be interested. I'll ask you, Duke, in a second. I mean, this guy throws 92, 97 and touches 99, has a slider that hits 85 coming out of the bullpen. He's athletic, so you maybe think he could go the rotation. He missed 6 weeks with a sore arm. Did get the velocity back. What do you see here? Is he starter or reliever for you?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think you look at the delivery, you say, wow, he could definitely be a starter. Throws a little across his body there. Maybe that's where some of the velocity where he loses it. And he started once as a freshman, and because of the health issue, though, you start to wonder if this is a guy that would be in the bullpen. I'd give him a shot in the starting rotation, but most likely he's going to end up back in the pen.
All right, and he'll hopefully do that with the Chicago White Sox someday. The Pirates are up next.
Pirates select draft ID 770, Stafford, Deion Stafford, a catcher from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh selects Deion Stafford, a catcher from St. Joseph's University.
And we see another college catcher go here, and Deion Stafford's a guy who entered the spring really with high expectations in the A-10, maybe didn't quite live up to them as much as expected.
No, he didn't. You're always looking for college performers in the college ranks, and he's got some significant power and strength, but he didn't hit this year and kind of got outperformed by some other guys in the region. Talking to scouts in the area, Eric Osberg from Hartford, I think outperformed him in a lot of ways and moved past him in that neck of the woods. But people have seen him in the past perform well. The catch and throw is a little bit rough, so you have to hope that can get better and that the power can start showing up more legitimately.
All right, and he heads to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Marlins are coming up next, and the Marlins trying to replenish that system. Not loaded right now. But they try to get the talent back in there. It started with Trevor Rogers in the first round. Here's their 5th round pick.
Marlins select draft ID 1514, Lily Ryan, a right-handed starter from UC Riverside.
Miami selects Ryan Lilly, a right-handed pitcher from UC Riverside.
The Marlins go with Ryan Lilly, cross country. They go with the California kid from UC Riverside, originally from Murrieta, California, and now he's headed to the Miami Marlins organization.
Yeah, former catcher / reliever, which is interesting because, who else did that from Riverside? Troy Percival.
You didn't give me a chance to answer?
Yes, no, I know. It was more a rhetorical question. We only have a minute here, people. But then he moved into the rotation this year, and he kind of saw his stock go up a little bit because it looks like he might have a chance to start. Fastball, curveball, changeup, all average, maybe a tick better with the fastball. Threw strikes, maintained his stuff, pretty good delivery. Now, if you want to put him back in the bullpen, everything will tick up a little bit. He probably could move more quickly. He's had some success in that role, so he can handle it.
And the Marlins have been really, they've mixed it up, pitchers, position players, 3 of each so far as we get ready for the Kansas City Royals pick here in round 5.
Kansas City Royals select ID 4116, Neuweiler, Charlie, right-handed pitcher, Monsinger McClancy Memorial High School, East Elmhurst, New York.
Kansas City selects Charlie Neuweiler, a right-handed pitcher, Monsignor McClancy Memorial High School in Elmhurst, New York.
And that is the same high school as Quentin Holmes, the speedster who's already gone in this draft. So another situation where the scouts went up to New York State to check out on Quentin Holmes, and they also got a chance to see Neuweiler.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Neuweiler will have to send a little thank you note to Quentin Holmes. Thank you for letting me go on day 2. But if he hadn't performed well this spring, we wouldn't be talking about him right now. He's kind of an undersized right-hander, but he's kind of strong, square frame kind of guy. He's not one of these little slight guys with lack of durability. He's around 90 to 92 with a fastball, but can maintain that throughout a start, and is an above-average breaking ball with some feel for pitching. So it's kind of an interesting guy. He's not that tall, projectable. He's going to fill out. He's kind of who he is physically, but he's got a feel for a couple of pitches and really knows how to use those pitches. So kind of a guy who could be interesting, especially once he starts being able to throw more frequently. When you play in the cold weather in New York, it's hard and not against great competition either.
Yeah, you get a late start certainly as opposed to Texas and Florida and California. Here's the Astros.